Alex had always known his life would be extraordinary, but nothing in his past had prepared him for this moment. Standing at the threshold of the alien city, he felt a mixture of awe and anxiety. The sky above shimmered with colors that humans had never named, as if the atmosphere itself were alive, painting waves of light across the horizon. The ground beneath him glowed softly, and bioluminescent plants stretched toward the sky like natural towers of glass. Everything about this place was unlike anything he had seen on Earth. His mission was clear: negotiate peace between humanity and the alien civilization that had been on the brink of war with his people for decades. But the complexity of the task became immediately apparent as he stepped forward. The city was alive with movement. Alien citizens of various shapes and sizes moved gracefully, their gestures and postures reflecting a culture of discipline and elegance. Some floated effortlessly above the ground using a subtle form of levitation, while others walked with mechanical precision, their eyes scanning the surroundings with intelligence and caution. Every step Alex took seemed to draw the attention of the citizens, and he felt their curiosity piercing through him. Alex's guide, a tall, silvery-skinned alien named Varel, led him through the streets, speaking in careful English that had been adapted for interstellar diplomats. "The Queen does not meet just anyone," Varel explained. "Her presence alone is commanding. You must remember that respect is not optional here. It is a matter of survival." Alex nodded, his pulse quickening. He had spent years studying alien cultures and communication protocols, but nothing could fully prepare a human mind for the reality of an entirely new species with their own rules, emotions, and perceptions. Kikya, Palace of the Alien Queen, soon came into view. Its structure defied earthly logic. Towering spires twisted skyward, connected by bridges that seemed suspended in midair. The walls glimmered with a metallic sheen that reflected the glowing flora surrounding it. Alex could feel a subtle vibration in the air as he approached, almost as if the building itself was alive, aware of his presence. He wondered how a single being, even a ruler, could exert such influence over an entire civilization. Inside the palace, the atmosphere shifted. The vast halls were silent except for the soft hum of energy that seemed to power the structure itself. The walls pulsed with gentle lights that changed color as Alex moved, as though guiding him deeper into the heart of the palace. His mind raced with anticipation and unease. He had been trained to negotiate, to remain calm under pressure, but nothing in his preparation manual had prepared him for the feeling of being truly dwarfed, emotionally, intellectually, and physically, by a culture so advanced and mysterious. He was led into a reception chamber where a group of advisors awaited. They were unlike the citizens he had seen outside. Their appearance was more refined, their movements deliberate, and their eyes held the sharpness of minds that had seen centuries of knowledge. The lead advisor, an alien named Saran, stepped forward. "Alex of Earth," he said, his voice calm yet authoritative. "We have observed your kind for many cycles. You arrive with the hope of peace, but you must understand the fragility of it. Our people are divided. Some welcome your presence, others see only conquest." Alex listened carefully, nodding. He could sense the tension in the room. These advisors were not hostile, but neither were they easily persuaded. He knew that diplomacy would require patience, understanding, and perhaps, more than anything, humility. "I understand," he said. "I am here to build trust, to find common ground, and to prevent war. I will do everything in my power to honor your people and ours." The conversation continued, exploring the political, cultural, and emotional divides within the alien society. Alex realized that their conflicts were not unlike human conflicts. Differences in ideology, competition for resources, and fear of the unknown. Yet there was something fundamentally different about them. Their society operated on principles and values that humans could barely comprehend. They measured time differently. Their history spanned longer than any human record, and their emotions, though recognizable, were expressed in ways that were both subtle and profound. As the meeting concluded, Alex was given a private room to rest The room overlooked a courtyard filled with crystalline trees and streams of glowing liquid that moved like living rivers. He sat on the edge of the platform, staring out at the alien landscape, trying to process everything he had experienced. He thought about his family back on Earth, the people he had sworn to protect, and the incredible responsibility now resting on his shoulders. One wrong word, one misstep could undo everything and plunge both worlds into war. Late into the evening, Alex explored the palace on his own, driven by curiosity and the need to understand the place that could hold humanity's fate. He walked through corridors that twisted and turned in impossible angles, past gardens that seemed to float in midair, and listened to the quiet whispers of the palace itself. It was during these wandering moments that he first felt the presence of the alien queen, not yet seen but unmistakably powerful. The air seemed to thrum with her energy, and Alex sensed that every corner of the palace was an extension of her will. By the time he returned to his room, exhaustion weighed on him, but his mind remained alert. He knew that the real challenge had not yet begun. The advisors had made it clear. The queen herself was unpredictable, her decisions guided by both intellect and instinct. Meeting her would be unlike any negotiation he had ever encountered. He would need to navigate not only her authority, but also her intentions, which remained hidden behind a veil of mystery. That night, Alex lay awake, reflecting on the delicate balance of hope and danger. He realized that this mission was about more than just diplomacy. It was about understanding, about bridging the gap between two species that had almost destroyed each other. He wondered what it would mean to truly connect with someone so different from himself. Would he find common ground, or would the differences prove insurmountable? As the first light of the alien dawn filtered into his room, Alex felt a sense of resolve. He was here to do a job, but he also understood that he was stepping into history. The world he knew was about to change, and the choices he made would ripple far beyond the palace walls, reaching every corner of the galaxy. With a deep breath, he prepared himself for what lay ahead, the encounter that would challenge everything he thought he knew about peace, power, and the beings who ruled this strange and magnificent world. The morning light filtered into the palace in hues of soft blue and gold, reflecting off the crystalline walls and illuminating the hallways with a surreal glow. Alex rose early, still carrying the weight of yesterday's experiences. He had walked through the city, met the advisors, and explored the palace, but nothing prepared him for what lay ahead. Today he would meet the alien queen herself, a moment that both terrified and fascinated him. Varel arrived promptly to escort him. The silver-skinned guide moved with an elegance that reminded Alex of the citizens he had seen, but there was an unmistakable air of purpose in every motion. "Today," Varel said softly, "you will meet the queen. Remember, words are important, but your presence, your attitude, and your respect carry more weight than anything you can say." Alex nodded, trying to steady his nerves. He had prepared for countless scenarios, studied alien customs, and learned the proper protocols for formal meetings, but the thought of facing the ruler in person made his heart race. The corridor leading to the throne chamber seemed endless. Walls shimmered and shifted as though alive, reflecting images of the palace gardens, stars, and alien symbols Alex did not recognize. The air vibrated gently, a sensation that Alex could feel in his chest. He remembered Varel's warning. The queen's presence extended far beyond her physical form. Every corner of the palace was influenced by her energy. Humans could not fully comprehend it, but the effect was undeniable. Finally, they arrived at a large set of doors, unlike anything Alex had ever seen. The surface was smooth, metallic, yet somehow organic, pulsing faintly as if it were breathing. Varel paused. "The queen will see you now. Step forward with confidence, but remain respectful. This is not only a meeting, it is an introduction to the heart of your mission. Your actions today will echo for generations." Alex swallowed hard and nodded, feeling the weight of those words. The doors opened silently, revealing a grand chamber bathed in soft, multicolored light. At the far end stood the alien queen. She was breathtaking in a way that defied human understanding. Her form was tall and commanding, yet her movements carried grace and precision. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting intelligence, power, and an emotion that Alex could not immediately identify. She regarded him silently, and the room seemed to grow heavier with each passing moment. Before Alex could even greet her, the Queen moved with astonishing speed. In a single fluid motion, she was before him, pressing him gently yet firmly against the wall. Alex's mind raced. He had anticipated a formal meeting, a discussion, perhaps even a negotiation. But this was unlike anything he had imagined. His heart pounded in his chest, and a surge of adrenaline made him hyper-aware of every detail: the energy in the room, the subtle hum beneath the walls, the intensity of her gaze. "You want peace, human?" she asked, her voice a melody of authority and curiosity. Alex nodded, barely able to find his voice. I do," he stammered. "That is why I'm here." Her eyes narrowed slightly, as if evaluating the sincerity of his words. Then, with a calmness that contrasted sharply with the intensity of her previous action, she spoke again. "Then marry me." Alex froze. The words hung in the air, shocking him to his core. He had expected proposals of treaties, alliances, or discussions of trade and strategy. Marriage was the last thing he anticipated. He searched her face for signs of jest, of a test, of any clue that would explain why the ruler of an entire civilization would demand such a thing. But her expression remained unwavering, a mixture of challenge and expectation. He struggled to process the situation. In human terms, this was unprecedented. No diplomat had ever been asked to marry a ruler as a condition for peace, yet he realized immediately that this was not a joke. In this alien society, cultural customs were vastly different. Marriage might represent not just personal union but political alliance, a binding of worlds that could ensure stability in ways humans rarely understood. "Marriage, to you?" Alex managed to ask, his voice trembling slightly. "Is that really the only way?" She inclined her head, her eyes locking with his in a gaze that seemed to pierce through every layer of thought and hesitation. "Yes," she replied simply. "Peace is fragile. My people will not trust words alone. They need certainty. You must become part of this world. Not as a visitor, not as an observer, but as a bond that cannot be broken. Only then will our peoples stand united." Alex felt a wave of conflicting emotions. On one hand, he understood the importance of the Queen's demand. Refusing her could destroy the fragile hope for peace. On the other, the personal implications were staggering. Marrying someone from an alien species meant leaving everything he knew behind, stepping into a life entirely foreign, and navigating customs, expectations, and emotions beyond his comprehension. Yet he also understood the stakes. Billions of lives on both Earth and the alien planet could be affected by his decision. The Queen released him from the wall, taking a few steps back. Her presence still dominated the room, yet there was a strange warmth in her eyes. "Do not mistake this for coercion," she said. "This is choice, human, but understand this. The window for peace is narrow. Delay may cost everything." Alex swallowed hard, his mind racing through every possible scenario. Could he truly accept this? Could he leave his life behind for the sake of peace? Every logical part of him screamed caution. But another part, the part trained to think beyond fear, to act for the greater good, recognized the opportunity to do something extraordinary. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. I need to understand more," he said carefully. "I need to know what it means, for me, for your people, and for humanity." The Queen's lips curved slightly, a gesture that seemed almost human in its subtlety. "Very well," she said. "Understanding comes with action. You will see our ways, our trials, and our customs. Only then will you decide. But remember, time is limited, and hesitation carries consequences." What followed was unlike any training or preparation Alex had experienced. The Queen guided him through the palace, introducing him to rituals that tested his judgment, patience, and courage. Some rituals were physical, requiring balance and agility. Others were mental, demanding insight and empathy. In every step, Alex felt the weight of the alien civilization's trust pressing upon him. Every gesture, every choice, seemed to matter. He began to realize that marriage, in this context, was more than a personal union. It was a symbol of commitment, a pledge to uphold peace and honor across species. During these trials, Alex observed the complexity of the Queen's world. The palace was alive with activity. Advisors moved like coordinated instruments in a symphony. Citizens participated in rituals that balanced logic and emotion, and the Queen herself seemed attuned to every subtle movement, every unspoken thought. Her authority was absolute, but it was not fear-driven. It was rooted in respect, intelligence, and deep understanding of her people. Alex found himself both intimidated and inspired, recognizing that he had never met anyone with such a combination of power and grace. As the Yahweh day turned to evening, the Queen brought him to a quiet balcony overlooking the alien city. The lights of the metropolis sparkled below, reflections dancing on the streams and crystalline structures. "Look upon your choice, human," she said softly. "Peace is not simply the absence of war. It is the presence of trust, of connection, of courage. What you decide here will echo across generations. Consider carefully." Alex stood there, absorbing the scene, the weight of the moment pressing upon him. He thought of Earth, of the lives depending on his actions, of the fragile hope that had brought him to this alien world. And though fear still lingered, a sense of purpose began to grow. This was not just a personal challenge. It was a mission that transcended boundaries, a chance to do something remarkable. As the stars began to shimmer in the alien sky, Alex realized that the decision before him was far from simple. But he also understood that avoiding it was not an option. The path to peace required bravery, sacrifice, and an openness to possibilities that defied imagination. With a deep breath, he turned to the Queen, ready to face whatever trials, choices, and revelations lay ahead. The days that followed the shocking proposal were unlike anything Alex had ever experienced. Each morning he woke to the strange, beautiful light of the alien sun, filtering through the translucent walls of the palace. Each evening, the city below shimmered like a galaxy of tiny stars, reflecting the energy and life of a world so different from Earth. But the beauty of this place could not quiet the questions racing through his mind. How could he truly understand a culture so alien? How could he prove himself worthy of the Queen's extraordinary proposal? And most importantly, could he bridge the gap between his species and hers to secure lasting peace? The Queen, ever watchful and commanding, introduced Alex to the first of many trials. These were not mere tests of strength or intelligence. They were trials designed to reveal character, judgment, and empathy. On the first morning, she led him to a vast chamber filled with shifting platforms and streams of energy. "This is the trial of balance," she explained. "You will navigate this space not as a conqueror but as a participant. Each misstep reflects not weakness alone, but understanding of your own place in our world." Alex studied the platforms, noting that some were solid, some transparent, and others seemed to shift under pressure. The streams of glowing energy flowed unpredictably, and the air itself hummed with subtle vibrations that made it difficult to focus. He stepped carefully, testing his weight and observing the reactions of the platforms. With each movement, he felt a strange connection to the space around him. It was as if the chamber responded to his thoughts, adjusting in ways that required both awareness and patience. Hours passed, and Alex stumbled more than once. But with every mistake he learned, adapting to the rhythm of the trial. The Queen observed silently, her presence palpable even when she stood at a distance. She did not offer guidance or correction, yet her attention seemed to guide him, like a subtle current beneath the surface. By the end of the trial, Alex understood that success was not simply reaching the other side, but understanding the environment, respecting its rules, and moving with awareness rather than force. The next trial focused on judgment and empathy. Alex was brought to a chamber where holographic simulations of the city's citizens appeared, each presenting a problem or conflict. Some involved disputes over resources, others over cultural misunderstandings, and some were matters of morality. Alex was instructed to listen, respond, and find solutions that preserved harmony. At first, he approached each scenario with human logic, analyzing data and proposing practical solutions. But the Queen interrupted him several times. "Your solutions reflect intelligence but not understanding," she said. "Our society values more than logic. It values harmony, connection, and the ability to see the world through the eyes of others. Can you feel what others feel, human? Can you move beyond your own perspective?" Alex paused, realizing that he had been applying Earth-based reasoning to alien problems. He began to observe more closely. The subtle expressions of the holographic citizens, the energy shifts in the chamber, the way conflicts arose from misunderstandings rather than malice. Slowly, he adapted, responding not just with logic but with empathy. By the end of the day, he had resolved conflicts in ways that honored the citizens' values and intentions, earning a rare nod of approval from the Queen. As the days progressed, the trials grew more challenging. One required physical endurance in environments that simulated extreme alien conditions, low gravity, intense heat, and shifting terrain. Another tested patience and observation, asking Alex to decode patterns in the city's social structure and predict outcomes of complex interactions. Each trial was designed not to intimidate or harm him, but to teach, showing that understanding the Queen's people required more than intellect. It required perception, humility, and resilience. During these trials, Alex also observed the Queen in ways that gave him insight into her character. She was commanding yet fair, fierce yet capable of unexpected kindness. She did not rule through fear alone. Her authority was rooted in respect and deep understanding of her people. When she spoke, others listened, not because they had to, but because they trusted her judgment. Alex found himself both challenged and inspired by her presence, realizing that the bond she sought through marriage was not only political, but a connection that could teach him and guide him toward a broader understanding of life, responsibility, and leadership. Between trials, the Queen allowed Alex moments to explore the palace and the city under supervision. He walked through gardens of floating flowers, listened to rivers of glowing liquid that seemed to sing, and observed citizens practicing their crafts and rituals. He began to notice patterns and subtleties that initially escaped him. The way citizens showed respect without words, the unspoken rules of social interaction, and the balance between individuality and community. Each observation deepened his appreciation for the society he was becoming part of, and he realized that marriage to the Queen would mean embracing not just her, but the entire culture and its intricate web of relationships. One evening, as Alex rested in a quiet chamber overlooking the city, the Queen appeared without warning. She did not speak immediately, simply standing beside him and looking out at the lights below. "Do you understand yet?" she asked softly. "The trials are not about strength or knowledge alone. They are about seeing the world as we see it, feeling as we feel it, and acting as we act. Can you do that, human?" Alex thought carefully. He realized that each trial had taught him something vital, not only about the alien world, but about himself. He had learned patience, humility, empathy, and adaptability. He had discovered that leadership required connection, that trust was fragile but powerful, and that understanding was more important than dominance. "I think I am beginning to understand," he said honestly. "It is different from anything I have ever known, but I see the importance of it. I see what peace truly requires." The Queen's eyes softened slightly. "Good," she said. "Understanding is the first step. Commitment is the next. The choice to act, not merely observe, is what defines a bond worthy of trust." She paused, then added with quiet intensity, "Your people are counting on you, and so are mine. You cannot falter now." As the days turned into weeks, Alex continued. The trials, each one more complex and demanding than the last. He learned to navigate social dynamics that were entirely foreign, to communicate in ways that transcended words, and to anticipate the needs of a society that had thrived for centuries without human intervention. With every challenge, he grew, more confident, not in his ability to conquer, but in his ability to connect, understand, and contribute meaningfully to a culture that was not his own. Despite the challenges, Alex also found moments of unexpected joy. He laughed with citizens who taught him games of skill and strategy, marveled at the artistry of alien creations, and experienced small victories in problem-solving that reinforced his growing bond with the Queen and her people. These moments reminded him why he had embarked on this mission, not just to prevent war, but to create something enduring, meaningful, and extraordinary. By the time the final trial approached, Alex felt transformed. He was no longer simply a human diplomat navigating alien protocols. He had begun to see the world through the eyes of another species, to understand the weight of responsibility and the depth of connection required to sustain peace. He was ready, in ways he had never anticipated, to face the ultimate decision, to commit not only to a marriage proposal that seemed impossible, but to a future that could change the course of interstellar history. And yet, even with all he had learned, he knew that the next step would challenge him like nothing before. The Queen had prepared him, tested him, and guided him, but the final decision, to accept the bond she proposed, was entirely his. It was a choice that required courage, clarity, and the willingness to embrace the unknown, knowing that his actions would shape not only his own life, but the fate of two civilizations. As Alex stood on the balcony that evening, looking out at the alien city that had become a world of both challenge and wonder, he understood the truth of the Queen's lessons. Peace was not simple, trust was fragile, and understanding required more than knowledge. It required heart, insight, and the willingness to act in service of something greater than oneself. With that realization, he felt a mixture of fear and determination, ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that his journey had only just begun. The final morning of the trials arrived with a quiet stillness that seemed almost unnatural. The palace was calm, yet beneath the surface, Alex could feel the energy of anticipation buzzing like a living current. Today, he would face the ultimate challenge, not a test of strength, intelligence, or skill, but of the heart and mind. The decision he would make today could secure peace for billions or unravel all the progress that had been painstakingly achieved. As he walked through the palace corridors, Alex reflected on everything he had learned. He had faced the trial of balance, the trial of empathy, and countless scenarios that pushed him to understand alien culture and values. He had stumbled, learned, adapted, and grown in ways he had never imagined. But now, all of that knowledge would converge on a single question. Could he commit to a life beyond his own world? To a union that would unite two species and ensure the fragile hope for peace? The Queen awaited him in a chamber that overlooked the sprawling city below. The light of the alien sun shimmered across her form, highlighting the grace and authority that had both intimidated and inspired him from the start. She did not speak. Immediately, simply observing him with eyes that seemed to see every doubt, every fear, every hidden thought. Alex felt a rush of humility. He realized that this was not about submission or coercion. It was about mutual understanding and trust. "Alex," she said finally, her voice calm yet penetrating, "you have learned much. You have seen our ways, our customs, our people. But knowledge alone does not create peace. Action does. Commitment does. You must decide whether to embrace this bond, not for yourself alone, but for the greater good of our worlds." Alex nodded, slowly, feeling the gravity of her words settle deep in his chest. He thought of Earth, of the leaders and citizens who had placed their hopes and trust in him. He thought of the alien citizens he had come to respect, the delicate society that had welcomed him despite centuries of fear and suspicion. And he thought of the Queen herself, her intelligence, her strength, her vision for a future where war was no longer inevitable. He remembered the moments of doubt, the times he had faltered during the trials, and the lessons those experiences had taught him. Courage was not the absence of fear. It was the ability to act despite it. Trust was not a guarantee. It was a choice made repeatedly with awareness and intention. Understanding was not passive. It required empathy, attention, and willingness to embrace perspectives beyond one's own. Peace is fragile, he said quietly, almost to himself. And yet, it is possible. I see that now. I understand the stakes. I understand what is required, not just of me, but of everyone involved. The Queen's eyes softened slightly, and for a moment the formal distance between them felt smaller, more human. You understand? She replied. But understanding is not enough. You must choose. Will you marry me, human, and bind our peoples together with trust, respect, and commitment? Alex took a deep breath. He weighed the risks, the unknowns, and the extraordinary nature of the choice. Marrying the Queen meant stepping into a world completely unlike his own. It meant leaving behind everything familiar, embracing a culture that challenged every assumption he had ever held, and accepting responsibilities that went far beyond any human experience. And yet he also realized that the opportunity was profound. By saying yes, he could create a bond that would change history, prevent war, and bring hope to two civilizations on the brink of destruction. I accept, he said finally, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside him. I will marry you, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Not for me alone, but for the future of our worlds. I will do my best to honor this bond, to understand, and to act with integrity and courage. The Queen's lips curved into a small, almost imperceptible smile. Then the path is clear, she said. The union will begin with ceremony, but it will continue through understanding, collaboration, and shared responsibility. This is not an ending, human, but a beginning. In the days that followed, preparations for the ceremony began. Alex was introduced to customs and rituals that were foreign yet mesmerizing. He learned how to participate in symbolic acts that represented unity, trust, and shared responsibility. He practiced movements, phrases, and gestures that communicated respect and intention. Each rehearsal deepened his connection to the culture and to the Queen herself. He began to understand that the marriage was not simply personal. It was a symbol of hope, a promise to both species that peace was achievable through commitment and understanding. During this time, Alex also reflected on his personal journey. He had arrived as a diplomat, prepared for negotiations and strategy. He had faced trials, challenges, and moments of doubt, but he had also grown, learned, and discovered a capacity for empathy and courage that he had not fully realized. The choice to marry the Queen was not just a diplomatic act, it was a transformation, a commitment to growth, understanding, and service beyond himself. The ceremony itself was breathtaking. It took place in a grand hall suspended high above the city, with walls that reflected light like liquid crystal. Alien citizens gathered, their expressions a mix of curiosity, respect, and hope. The Queen stood beside him, radiating authority and elegance, yet there was a warmth in her gaze that made Alex feel seen and valued. The rituals flowed in a sequence that combined movement, words, and symbols. Each act represented unity, trust, and mutual respect. Alex followed carefully, mindful of the meaning behind every gesture, every phrase. As the final ritual concluded, the Queen extended her hand. Alex took it, feeling a surge of emotion. He understood the weight of the moment. This was not merely a personal union, but a covenant that bound two worlds together. The citizens below cheered not out of obligation, but from a shared sense of hope. He glanced at the city, seeing it through new eyes, not just as an alien metropolis, but as a living testament to what could be achieved when understanding and courage guided action. That night, as Alex and the Queen stood together overlooking the glowing city, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He had faced fear, doubt, and uncertainty. He had learned lessons about empathy, courage, and the power of choice. And now he had made a decision that would shape the future, not just of his life, but of countless others. He realized that peace required more than treaties or words. It required commitment, trust, and the willingness to step into the unknown with integrity and courage. The Queen spoke softly, her gaze on the horizon. This is only the beginning, human. There will be challenges, disagreements, and tests. But together we can face them. Together we can create a future worth striving for. Alex nodded, feeling a profound sense of purpose and determination. He knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but he also understood that this partnership, this bond, held the power to change everything. With that realization, Alex embraced his new life fully. He was no longer just a human diplomat. He was a partner, a bridge between two civilizations and a symbol of what courage, empathy, and understanding could achieve. The journey ahead was uncertain, but for the first time he felt ready to face it, not alone, but alongside the Queen and the people who had welcomed him into their world. The morning after the ceremony, Alex awoke with a mixture of awe and anticipation. The palace seemed both familiar and new. The rituals, the trials, and the ceremony had transformed not just his role, but his perception of the alien world. He was no longer an observer, no longer a visitor. He was a part of something larger, a participant in a bond that held the potential to redefine interstellar relations. The first challenge after the wedding was not a ritual or a trial, but real-life diplomacy. Citizens and advisors from different factions approached Alex and the Queen with concerns, requests, and even objections. Some were wary of a human stepping into their society in such a significant role. Others were curious, eager to see how this unusual partnership could work in practice. Alex realized immediately that marriage to the Queen did not exempt him from responsibility. Rather, it amplified it. He had to prove that his intentions were genuine, that his presence was beneficial, and that his commitment to peace was unwavering. The Queen guided him through these initial encounters, demonstrating patience and strategy. "Listen first, human," she advised. "Words can mislead, but understanding comes from observation, empathy, and careful thought. Your actions will speak louder than your explanations." Alex took her advice to heart. He observed carefully, asked questions respectfully, and sought solutions that honored both human and alien perspectives. Slowly, he began to earn the trust of those who had doubted him. Days turned into weeks and Alex grew into his role. He participated in council meetings, helped mediate disputes, and learned the nuances of alien governance. He discovered that leadership in this society was about balance, foresight, and empathy. Decisions were never taken lightly, and every action had ripple effects across the population. Alex adapted, applying lessons from his trials and personal experiences to navigate complex situations. Each success, no matter how small, reinforced the importance of commitment, understanding, and integrity. The bond between Alex and the Queen deepened during this period. They shared moments of quiet conversation, observing the city together or discussing the challenges they faced. In these moments,